Hi, my name is Janet Kawamura, and I am in my final semester here at Boise State University. I wanted to take a moment and share a presentation I did for my Multidisciplinary Studies 400 class. This is my capstone class for my graduation, and I was asked to do a service learning project and then also share a presentation on it. The service learning organization I teamed up with was the Boise Rescue Mission. I found them through the OrgSync program here at Boise State. Let me tell you a little bit about the organization and what I chose to do for them. The Boise Rescue Mission serves hundreds of people daily in several Treasure Valley locations. They have a men's shelter over on River Street, a women and children's center on Jefferson Street, and also in the Treasure Valley they have a location in the Nampa area. They serve thousands of meals daily, and they help thousands of people yearly with meals, places to sleep, addiction recovery, veteran services, and many other opportunities that they provide for these people. They're always in need of volunteers and donations since this is their primary source of getting what is needed for these people to help. For my project, I asked to work with the City Light Shelter. This is a shelter for women and children. They have over 50 women that depend on this shelter nightly for a place to sleep. They still serve meals 2 times a day, and they run programs for addiction recovery. They run programs for women seeking their GEDs, and they also have tutoring programs for the women and the children of the women that live here in these shelters. It's a very unique program, and they offer a lot of classes, but many of them are through volunteer services. For my project, they were seeking someone that might be able to carry on a career class that had previously been taught at the shelter, but the facilitator of that class had moved over 6 months ago and they had not been able to offer the class. So I told them that I would love to teach the class. So first I took some of the materials they had, and I could see that they were in need of redesigning a more current handbook. So for part of my project, approximately 10 hours of my project, I spent redeveloping a handbook and a curriculum, basically a guide for what we would cover in each of the sessions of the class. The class that they wanted me to teach would be held over 3 weeks. It would be 3 nights, one session once a week for 3 weeks. The approximate class size was going to be about 10 women. These women were from all walks of life, but they were all down on their luck at the time and staying at the shelter, and it was required for them to participate in the class in order to be able to still maintain their stay there at the shelter. The goal of the class was to help them be able to better be prepared to find or perhaps even find work while they were staying there at the shelter. So we broke out the class into 3 sessions, and I actually have taught 2 of the sessions to date at the shelter, and I have volunteered to continue to help with the shelter as long as I can facilitating this class. About every 6 weeks they will start a new class, and I will teach for the 3 weeks of that session. I'm very excited to carry on this opportunity. For the first session, we covered things like just going into a prospective employer and meeting them and greeting them, what our appearance needs to look like, when you get the application, how to best fill out the application, the importance of penmanship, the importance of spelling things correctly and making things very legible. We talked about what kind of references to use and what kind of keywords to use to keep your application wanting to be on the top of the pile. We also talked about resumes and the importance of having a good, clean resume and what to put on the resume and what not to put on the resume. We had all sorts of fun getting to know each other, and the first week was a little different because these women were from all different walks of life and they don't necessarily want to just open up to a stranger. But I made that my goal, and usually by the last session they were very excited to tell me how their week had gone and what they'd been up to. Their homework for the first week was to fill out an actual application and bring it back the next week, to create a personal resume, and then also find 20 jobs that they would be interested in that they would bring back and share with me the next week. For the session 2, we went right into preparing for an interview. Again, the importance of how to dress, how to act, what to say, what not to say, how to sell yourself, how to be confident, We spent so much time on talking about not dwelling on the past, but by telling people how they had changed and how they wanted to have a better future and how to be positive when they went into these interviews. We talked about them preparing a personal statement of purpose that they could use in an interview. We also talked about how to follow up after an interview and to ask for the job and not be shy about asking for a job. They turned in their homework from last week, and I will be correcting those resumes and applications and giving them back to them in the third week so then they can make the changes. But their homework for this week is going to be to find 3 tough interview questions and the best responses to bring next week for our mock interview session. Week 3, we started out with mock interviews. We took their questions along with some tough interview questions I had, and we discussed best responses to the questions. We talked about what to say again and what not to say and how you were going to do to get hired. We talked about finding keywords that you could use out of the job descriptions and how to learn about the company before you go to the interview so you'll be able to be better prepared to answer questions. We also talked about going into the interview as they were interviewing that place of employment to make sure that it was a right fit for them and they wanted to work there. This will help them with their own self-confidence. We also discussed about after you have the job, how to fill out all that new hire paperwork and how to keep a job and how to be a great employee. At the end of the class, we presented them with certificates of completion. Well, at first I thought it was a little funny that we were giving them a certificate of completion for just coming to a class 3 times. After we handed out the final certificate that night, when a lady came up to me and told me how she had never completed anything in her life and she was so excited to have completed this, it changed my heart on what the work I was doing here for the mission. I also created the handbook that I discussed, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about the handbook that I created. This I used to facilitate the class. It's a guide for each week's discussion, and it also has the resources located in the handbook for their homework assignments. A blank application, a resume sheet that helps guide them through what to include in the resume, and then also just a lot of the things that we talked about in the class. Some of the resources I used that I included in the handbook, and we talked a lot about in the actual class, came from sources like Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. We talked about being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, putting first things first, thinking win-win always, seeking first to understand, then to be understood, synergizing, and keeping your saw sharpened. These are all principles that Stephen Covey has talked about over the years that will never hurt to look at and keep learning from. The next source I used a lot was a great book I read quite a while ago, but I have it in my collection and I absolutely love this book, Get Hired Now. It talks about identifying the best job searching strategies for your goals, making sure you know what you want and when you want it. It doesn't do you much good to get in a job if it's not the right fit for you. So it talks a lot about finding that job for you. And even though these women are down on their luck, it is very good if they can find something they want to stick with. It'll be a lot easier for them. And then the book also spends a lot of time talking about staying motivated when you're faced with frustration and rejection. And the women here at the shelter have been faced with a lot of frustration and rejection. Sometimes they have crimes that make it very hard for employers to overlook and give them a second chance. But hopefully I've gave them some tips that will help them be able to get through these hard times. The next resource I found was a nonprofit organization located here in the Treasure Valley that was started several years ago to help people that were displaced and homeless and immigrants. This is a company called Greater Common Good. Greater Common Good provides work training services for individuals that are down on their luck. They come to the program, they are trained for specific jobs, and they work with area businesses to place these people after they've completed their training. They teach them how to be good employees, and they also teach them specific skills to work in the restaurant industry, the farming industry, and also in the hotel industry. They have over a 90% success rate on placing the participants that go through this program, and the vendors and the stores that are partners with them and placing these people are very happy with their services. The experience I had through this service learning opportunity truly changed who I am. I have learned that by giving of my time and knowledge that I have learned so much more myself. I hope I can continue to keep this class, to teach this class for new groups of women. It was a great reward to help these women, and I looked forward to coming each week to find out what successes they had had, and even hearing what failures they had and how they had overcome them. It was really neat to see out of the first session that 2 of the women were able to get into the Create Common Good class so they could learn some further job skills. 2 of the women got jobs at West Yellowstone and were excited to be leaving in a couple weeks to head to West Yellowstone for the summer, and 2 more had great job interviews that they were going on. The last session I taught just ended last Thursday, and we had great success from that too. Some of the women were applying to be in the next Create Common Good class, and others had job interviews also. I kind of feel bad that I can't stay in touch with them personally, but that's not something they encourage you to do. But the program director has let me know when they get hired. She will let me know so I can congratulate them or stop in to wherever they're working and say hi and tell them what a great job they've done by getting their job. I want to encourage anyone that's looking for an opportunity to change their life to volunteer some time anywhere at the Boise Rescue Mission. Being able to give something to someone else sure does build your own confidence up, and it teaches you a lot about who you really are. Thank you for your time. I'm so excited to be finished up with my career here at Boise State and moving on to the next thing in life. Thank you.